Hey, if you click this video, I'm guessing that you've had at least one of those days where you look at yourself and go, wow, I'm really not doing enough, am I? And maybe you compare yourself to friends who seem to have everything together, or worse, scroll through social media and feel like you've achieved barely anything. And so today, I want to talk about that feeling, that weird, heavy sense of falling short. And more importantly, I want to talk about how our brains, as cool as they are, often do a terrible job of accurately representing who we really are. Here's some wisdom from a human with 28 years of experience. Every single one of us is quietly convinced we're the only person lagging behind. It doesn't matter if you're 16 or 40, people from every stage of life have at some point looked me in the eye and said, I feel like everyone else knows something I don't. And hell, I've even said that to myself. And I find it kind of funny how universal that feeling is. People are comparing people. Because ironically, whenever we feel inadequate, we start comparing us, our entire package, the good, the bad, and ugly, to a very specific point in someone else's life. A point where things worked out for them, their success. And, spoiler, that comparison is never going to be fair. Because you see people doing things smoothly, calmly, like they've practiced their whole lives, and then you remember that time you forgot what day it was, or said something weird in public, or when friends were around, and then you think to yourself, well, yeah, I'm an idiot. But you're not seeing that those other people have had their own messy moments too. You're just seeing their success in that very specific moment. Feeling like you're falling short doesn't mean you actually are. Because our brains are biased towards negativity. And that's why we notice our mistakes more than our own successes. It's because of that we tend to see the least generous version of ourselves. Most of us walk around with this mental picture of how we think we are, our habits, our strengths, and our weaknesses. But that picture is usually based on old or incorrect information, or moments that we're still embarrassed about, not on who we actually are. And for some people, it can sound like, I'm the one who always messes things up, or I'm not as smart as everyone thinks I am, or I should know more by now, which is a personal favourite of mine. Meanwhile, the people around you will see a completely different version. They see the friend who always knows what to do when things go wrong. They see the person who solves problems without really realising it, or someone who is reliable and always there. Their qualities you skim over because we're not really trained to see those. And they're so integral to who we are, they almost become invisible to us. And our brain is not an objective witness. It tends to notice things easier that are out of place, like every awkward moment you've ever had, and completely ignore the times that you handled something with patience because that's how you normally function. We all get things wrong. We all have blind spots. We all have moments where we seem to forget basic knowledge or feel underprepared for things everyone else seems to just understand. But those moments don't define your intelligence, and they definitely don't define your worth. And something that I've actually learned over time is the reframing of this feeling, and that it can even be considered something more useful or more positive. And I don't mean in a everything is a lesson smile kind of way. I'm more talking about that feeling of I'm falling short can actually be a moment of awareness. And I think that people who never feel inadequate, or who rarely check in with themselves, if at all, people who never self-reflect or who avoid any kind of introspection will never grow as a person. But I think what's more important is that right now, you're here, trying to find an answer as to why you feel the way you do. And the danger, however, is giving in to those worst thoughts, and how much authority that we give to that feeling. Like, don't get me wrong, your feelings are real, but they're not always accurate, because our brain is not an objective witness. It can misinterpret things, it can catastrophize, it can get stuck in endless loops that were formed in childhood or during stressful periods, and it can cling onto those internalized expectations that might have never been yours to begin with. And it's not about pretending everything is fine, but more about realizing that your worst moments aren't necessarily evidence of who you are. A more balanced view of yourself doesn't require forced positivity. It requires honesty. You don't have to see yourself as exceptional. You just need to see yourself as a person who is learning, who is adapting, and is figuring things out like everyone else. That means acknowledging your strengths without brushing them off, but also recognizing your limitations without turning them into character flaws. And your path doesn't need to match anyone else's. Different experiences create different timelines, different challenges create different capacities, different environments shape different types of people. And finally, before I take my leave, know this. Your life isn't supposed to look like someone else's reference point. So why keep using it as one? Thanks for watching.